So today I want to talk about some stuff that has been on my mind, and that is all the crap that's been going down in the world lately. Especially in the US, we've had like, I don't know, way too many shootings, and it's become like the norm, and there's just a lot of crap going on. There's like all this hurricane cleanup, and I mean, I could just go on and on and on. But today I want to talk about how I mentally process through that kind of crap and kind of what I do to cope with it. So I'm the kind of person that can get a little bit wrapped up in other people's trauma and other people's feelings. As you guys know, I am not shy to talk about things like the political situation in Cambodia. And it's very clear to me that YouTube doesn't really want creators to like open up and talk about this stuff. They make that point clear by demonetizing your content, and I don't care because these are topics that are really affecting me, and so I'm assuming they're also affecting a lot of you guys. This is something that's going on in our world around us, and we have to learn how to cope with it. So let's talk. I think the first moment when I knew I wanted to make this video was probably when Trump got elected. I actually was in China on election day, and I'll insert a couple seconds of my reaction when I found out Trump was going to be our president. I'm so upset. It's highly depressing to me. And it's not like I hate Trump for no reason. I had so much hope for a change in the way our election system works. It's really broken. Money rules politics. It's just kind of the way it is right now. And so I had hope for change, and I saw it in like a candidate, and then I like lost the hope, and then I was like, well, maybe we can continue with the status quo. But then in my eyes, they went to shit. For me, Trump is kind of like a loose cannon, and the way that he speaks so openly and flippantly online freaks me out in terms of like global peace. So after he got elected, there was like all this crap going down with North Korea where it was like, oh, they have nuclear weapons and they're threatening the US now. It makes me feel less safe than I once did. Another reason is because I feel like an ideal world in the eyes of our current government in the US is very exclusive. And so this whole talk of like building a wall to block Mexico really disturbs me. Throughout my life, I've learned a lot about Mexican immigration, and I have kind of a basic understanding of why the system is so broken and like what needs to be done in order to fix it. And building a wall is certainly not on that list of things to do to fix it. It was just all kinds of upsetting when Trump got elected. I mean, it just meant that like money does rule politics, is just confirming that like, yes, we are like this super white Christian nation that's like pretty exclusive. And then we have this person in charge who I can't watch him, you guys. When he first got elected, I was like, maybe he's not so bad. Like the debates were pretty terrible and he looked really dumb in them, but you know, maybe he's smarter than that. So I had to stop watching the news for like a really long time. And so I just kind of recently started back up, and I thought, you know, it's been a long time since I heard Trump speak. Like I just have been avoiding it, and I'm just gonna give it a shot. And I was listening to him talk about this new diversity ban or something like that. It just sounds right up my alley. He mispronounced the word diversity twice.
The diversity, lottery, diversity, and diversity.
There was no like path of like logic happening. It was just like, this is happening and this is happening and it's gonna be great. It's just all very disturbing to me. Regardless of your political views though, the things that have gone down in the last few months are fairly horrifying. So not that long after Trump got elected, there was a shooting very close to my hometown, which was a little terrifying. And there's this whole refugee crisis going on. And I don't mean to like sugarcoat or lighten up any of these topics. I'm just kind of like illustrating that everything started to add up for me. Fast forward months and months. Hurricane Harvey hits. It's devastating. Then Hurricane Irma hits. Then Hurricane Maria hits. Puerto Rico is wiped out. Now I'm learning all these things about Puerto Rico. So once all this stuff was going down with the hurricanes and everything, it kind of got me back into paying attention to the news, which I actually started to enjoy again. I have been avoiding mass media like the plague because I think it's completely run by money. So I started listening to NPR, which is funded by the people. Once I started listening to podcasts on NPR, I kind of had a more like calm viewpoint on politics, just because the people who are running these podcasts tend to have such a calm way of speaking, and it calms me down about political issues. Like they talk honestly and they don't get really stressed out over it. And so kind of listening to them as an example of how to kind of like talk about politics was comforting to me, I think. So that's one way I've kind of dealt with it. But that's also kind of where I learned about this whole situation in Puerto Rico with the Jones Act and like colonialism. So then the North Bay fires happened. Not that far away from where we live. So we're in the East Bay in the Bay Area, and they happened in the North Bay. But California, you know, is kind of known for fires, and so it wasn't super surprising. But then all these like weather conditions came together, and the fires just started swallowing like neighborhoods, like entire neighborhoods. And then there was this giant Las Vegas shooting, deadliest mass shooting in modern US history. And then a couple days ago, there was this big like New York terror attack thingy that happened where like this guy in a truck like ran over a bunch of cyclists, and it was this whole like blame game on Islam and on Arabic culture. And then lastly, to cap it all off, there's another shooting in Texas. So it's been a disturbing world to me lately, and it's been a little bit of a struggle to deal with it. Logically, it's been difficult to process it, partially because it's so hard to talk about these issues with people right now. People feel like they're walking on eggshells. Like if I say the word black, or if I say the word trans or Mexican, people like freak out as you're being racist or sexist or ableist, like you're always being somethingist, you know? And I want to create an inclusive environment, especially here on YouTube, where I actually have control over the environment I'm creating. But if we're so scared to even talk about these topics, like how is anything gonna get done? There's just like this perfect storm of things happening right now that are deeply, deeply disturbing to me. And you may have noticed by now that I disabled comments on this video. When I upload this video, when it goes live, I'm gonna start a thread on the Fearless Fam. That's a group on Facebook. It's a closed Facebook group. So you do have to request to join, but there are 2 of us who approve requests, and so we usually get to it pretty quick. So that is where the conversations are gonna be happening on this topic. And it's a really sticky situation, but like you can't judge the way people process things. We are humans. We are not perfect, politically correct beings. No one is. So yeah, letting these process through my brain without judgment, number 1. Number 2, opening up and talking to friends and family about these kinds of things, like openly. Eric and I, my husband, actually have many conversations about these difficult topics in the car on our commute. We have a long commute to work. And even though we do share a lot of opinions, we do have different opinions as well on a lot of issues. And so it's really nice to be able to like talk openly, almost like in a debate format where like, it's not like as structured as a debate, that'd be really weird. But being able to talk openly and being honest and really trying to like work our way through these issues is really helpful. Probably the most important is being able to talk to an online therapist with absolutely no judgment or expectations. I can just rant on there. I can dump all my shit on her, and I don't have to worry about dumping my shit on a loved one instead, you know? And she will identify little things that I'm more broken over than others, and will work through those and process them mentally. So that is a huge way I'm able to process and to cope with the situations that are happening in the world. Knowing when to watch the news and when not to watch the news. It's difficult, I think. And I will not consume mass media as much as possible. Of course, I see a lot of this stuff happening. It's not like I can completely shield myself from the mass media. That's just not realistic. But trying my best to stay away from it has definitely helped me. Making spring rolls if you're wondering what I'm doing. Now we're gonna switch over to the gun situation. So I'm not a huge fan of gun ownership at all. And I know that there are many safe gun owners out there, like I understand, but I get so freaking mad when all these shootings happen and then people in politics say, it's too soon to talk about it. It is not too soon to talk about it. It's the time to freaking talk about it before another shooting happens. They're just happening like back to back now. And so I get so frustrated when people say, well, we need to honor the victims and it's not the right time. And I'm like, yes, I understand. I want to honor the victims by talking about it and making this not happen again. So yeah, I guess the next thing that I do to mentally cope is sometimes I emotionally disconnect. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go about it, but like kind of learning when the emotions go so far to where like I'm about to enter a really heavy depression that might ruin my life. You know, that's when you want to emotionally disconnect from the situation. So something I have not worked my way through mentally, and a huge reason I wanted to make this video is just that like, because shootings are so common now in the US, how do I process them on such a mass scale? Like, okay, yeah, one happens and it's awful and horrific. Maybe I work my way through it mentally and I learn to cope with it, and then another one happens. Like, it's just like an endless chain, and it's so disturbing to me. So there's no right answer. There's no right answer. Just know that you're not alone. Don't forget that you're not alone on these issues. I have noticed that one special living being in my household really does change my mood really, really quickly. He doesn't know what's going on in the world. You know what he's most concerned about? The squirrels. The squirrels in the backyard. They're there and they're invading our territory. There's something about like looking into the eyes of an animal that's so comforting when all this crap is going down. For the most part, like look at the way the animals interact with each other. It's really incredible. It kind of restores my faith in the world, you know? One thing that I've noticed I've been doing lately is listening to more classic rock music because it brings back this nostalgia to a time where none of this was happening. I mean, of course there were still bad things happening. There's always bad things that happen in the world, but nostalgia is like blissful. You tend to remember the good and forget the bad. And so listening to classic rock, as weird as that sounds, as like a coping mechanism, totally does help me to kind of remove myself from a situation and just kind of be in the moment. And it's not all bad to like escape a little bit if you need to. If you're like me and you're kind of a big picture thinker, it can be kind of difficult sometimes when you're like thinking about all these events as a whole, and then you start to go down this wormhole of like corruption and greed and power and like trauma, and it's just so disturbing. Recognize when you're starting to go down the wormhole and try to stop yourself. Of course, there's hope for a different future and you can like make little changes as you go, but if you get too impatient and you get really overwhelmed and frustrated, it can really take a toll on your mental health while also not doing anything for change, you know? I think it is important to catch yourself before you go down the wormhole. There are groups out there, people who are actually like making change and making a difference, whether it's big or small. It's important to care for yourself too. It's okay to feel selfish sometimes. Meditate, that's another one. Meditate, that's good. I'll put a video up here, or where is it here, about meditation. To be honest, I'm getting a little bit frustrated because I feel like I can't explain this fully. There's a lot of crap going down in the world, and it can be really disheartening when you think back to like, this is not new. And like when you think about it like that, it can be really disheartening because it feels like it just is never gonna end and nothing's ever gonna get better. But I really can't hang on to that thought for too long without feeling like I'm gonna lose my shit. So my advice to you is to look for the good coming from these situations. Yeah, they're really horrific, but for instance, when you look at Puerto Rico, there's a lot of people who are literally starving. Like they just don't have food. But then I heard this story about a celebrity chef who has like some nice restaurant who opened it up and has been feeding thousands of people like every day since this started because he's so good at managing like kitchens in really intense situations. So I just thought that was super inspiring. If you guys are in the US, I'm sure you saw on Facebook during Hurricane Harvey, there were people posting, I have a truck, I'm at this location, do you need saving? Like, I will come to you. During the North Bay fires, I saw a story about a group of people who were trapped. They were surrounded by fire, like on all four sides, and there was a cop who was with them, and he pretended like he thought everything was going to be fine. And him keeping them calm actually ended up saving the whole group. These are really sad situations. The shootings especially really disheartening to me because it's so hard to find good in that situation. But I think at the end of the day, it's important to continue not giving into fear. Do your best to focus on the love and the humanity that's all around you in the world. I think maybe the reason I feel frustrated by this is because there's nothing I can say that's gonna make all of this better. There's a lot of good that can be done in the world. You can do a lot of good for the world. And I think the best thing you can do though is not let all these terrible things destroy you. I think it's so important to figure out a way to keep moving forward. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you very soon. Okay, bye.